it's Mitzi, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Vibrio cholerae, which is the pathogenic bacteria that causes cholera. Cholera is a diarrheal infection that is caused by the ingestion of Vibrio cholerae, and this can happen through contaminated food or water, but it's not any Vibrio cholerae, it's the toxigenic version of it. A fun fact is that it has two biotypes, which is the classical and El Tor. The classical was the one responsible for the first 6 pandemics, and El Tor was the one that caused the 7th pandemic. Vibrio cholerae is a gram-negative bacteria, and it is a cylindrical bacillus that has high motility due to monotrichous, sheathed, and polar flagella, which is what helps it travel and attach to the epithelial cells. The Vibrio cholerae that causes cholera does not have a capsule. However, there have been other isolates that do have a capsule, and like the non-01 Vibrio cholerae that has a capsular polysaccharide. This is a non-enveloped virus though, and its size is about 1.5 by 0.2 or 0.4 nanometers. And what it is a DNA double-stranded genome that has 2 chromosomes that are circular. There's a chromosome 1, which is where the location of genes required for its growth are at. And then there's a chromosome 2 where the location of encoding of intermediaries and metabolic pathways are. For the epidemiology, the incidence, about 1.3 to 4 million cases of cholera each year, and from 21,000 to 143,000 deaths worldwide. As we can see in the image, these are data provided from the World Health Organization in 2022. That was when they had the highest numbers of cases and deaths. However, by 2024, that number decreased significantly. Deaths went down for about 70%, and cases were down to 65%. And here the people that can be affected are everybody. They're kids, adults, women, men. Everybody that lives in an area where they cannot access safe water or have the proper sanitization or healthcare. Those are the people that can be most affected by cholera. And also, if travelers go to these places, there's a high chance that they can contract it too. For the place, here there are some graphs where it shows that the Eastern Mediterranean region has the highest number of cases. These are from this year. And then it's followed by the African region and the Southeast Asia region. Geographically, these areas are the ones that are most affected by floodings or natural disasters that involve large bodies of water, and also where healthcare is compromised. There are epidemics throughout the year, usually 2, and one is from September to December, and there's a smaller peak from between March and May. And in here we can also see that Africa is the region that has the most cases and deaths, as well as Asia following it. Okay, some relative facts about the epidemiology of cholera is that it is highly infectable because of the water. And water can be contaminated, and animals living in the water seafood that is not properly cooked or that has Vibrio can affect poverty-rich communities if ingested. And also, cholera can be fatal within hours if it's not treated because of the dehydration the body suffers. The thing is, most people infected don't really present any symptoms. And what happens is that through their feces, if they're not properly thrown away, the bacteria can be shed back into the environment and into the water, and it can infect the water and thus infect other people, One cool thing I found is that people with type O blood are twice more likely to contract cholera. Not sure what it consists on, but it is pretty interesting. For the virulence, the human immune system can secrete immunoglobulins such as secretory IgA, and what this causes is that it can agglutinate bacteria. And so the binding of SIgA will prevent bacteria from penetrating mucous barriers and thus attaching to epithelial cells. However, Vibrio cholerae has a factor toxicity, which is what helps it to coordinate a virulence gene activation and thus repress or evade the host defenses. So Vibrio cholerae will do what it has to do with no issues. And this is really interesting because it is a previously undescribed mechanism of immune evasion in pathogenic bacteria. And this is stuff that is being researched still to try to find the more physiological explanation to it. Okay, so main nutrition for bacterial pathogens is iron, and Vibrio cholerae uses heme in the body as a source of iron. And so what it does is it creates an iron depleted metabolic environment that happens in the gut, and that what it will do is that it will acquire the host derived heme and fatty acids, and thus it can grow and get its nutrients. Also, we found that sialic acids of mucous membranes are also another source of nutrition. It's not the main one, but it's one of those. Okay, so this is really interesting. This is the mode of action and basically how Vibrio cholerae works to attack the body and cause diarrhea and vomiting. Okay, so in the intestines and the first image, the Vibrio cholerae will bind to the surface of epithelial cells. And so right here, the cholera toxin is secreted, and the cholera toxin has 5 beta subunits, which are the ones that will do the binding, and 1 alpha subunit, which will be the one releasing the toxin. The alpha subunit contains 2 domains, which is the A1 and A2. Each beta subunit will bind to the intestinal epithelial cells through glycolipid, as seen in the second picture. The A1 and A2 are bonded by disulfide bond. And so once they are binded to the epithelial cells, what it will happen is that it will trigger endocytosis, and it's going to be transported to the endoplasmic reticulum, as seen in the third picture. And then A1 is going to be released from A2 and then transported from the lumen to the endoplasmic reticulum to the cytoplasm, as seen here in this image. Then through this, the A1 will modify the G protein that binds to the adenylate cyclase, and what it will do is it will control its activity. And here the A1 peptide uses the NAD plus, and causes the GDP riboxylation reaction. So what this will do is that it will inhibit the GDP to transform to GTP and then into inorganic cyclase. So what that will do is that adenyl cyclase will remain activated, and it will release a ton of CAMP that then will trigger the protein kinase A and cause it to be activated, which then will cause the CFTR, which is the cystic fibrosis transmembrane generator, and this will lead to the release of chlorine out of the cell and also other ions. And since it's going to be really packed outside, what the body will do is that it will take water from the bloodstream and ions so that it can equilibrate the osmolarity outside of the cell. And this is what will result in diarrhea and dehydration of cells in the body. So that's why it is said that people have to be rehydrated and using a lot of mechanisms for this to go up again. Okay, for the etiology and transmission, as I've mentioned before, Um, Vibrio cholerae is a bacteria that persists in aquatic reservoirs and forms of biofilms associated with plankton. It is caused by the ingestion of food or water contaminated with this toxic Vibrio cholerae. And the location, like I mentioned in the mode of action, it is in the small intestine. And some of the symptoms, the early symptoms are diarrhea, vomiting, restlessness. Some of the late symptoms are due to the early symptoms like dry mucous membranes, low blood pressure, loss of skin elasticity, rapid heart rate, and these are all due to the dehydration of the body. Some complications that can come with these late symptoms is that because of the dehydration, as I mentioned, this can cause low blood sugar. Oh, and by the way, even though there's low blood sugar, it is advised to not drink any sugary beverages while having cholera because it can worsen the diarrhea. But anyways, it can also cause fevers, kidney failure, shock, coma, and as I mentioned it also, if left untreated, it can cause death. There is some prevention and treatment provided, but the thing with this is that a person like living in America like us wouldn't think this is really necessary, but again, we're talking about regions and communities where safe water is scarce, where healthcare is not really available. And so for them, or also if tourists are visiting, drinking bottled water if possible is ideal. And also if there is no bottled water, try either boiling it or filtering it or chlorinating it. Also washing hands often with soap and safe water before and after going to the restroom, and also before and after eating. Avoid uncooked seafood, especially shellfish, because that's where a lot of Vibrio cholerae like to live. And also clean surrounding surfaces that can be contaminated with poop, and use toilets. But also, like I said, this is for other communities, and if a person is unable to do so, what is recommended is for them to bury it or dispose it far from a body of water. There are treatments for this, which are oral rehydration due to liquid loss through diarrhea and vomit, and it can be water, it can be broths. Like I said, avoid sugary drinks since it could worsen diarrhea. There's also this thing that's ORS rehydration, which are little prepacked salts and minerals that are mixed into water so that the body can recover faster. And also, besides this, using antibiotics too so that it can again strengthen the body and the immunity. There are vaccines to sort of prevent it, but not really, because they can reduce the likeliness of contracting cholera, but not entirely. Like there's still a chance of people getting cholera. These vaccines are killed wholesale vaccines that are orally administered, and since it is composed of killed bacteria, it isn't absorbed into the intestines, and that's why pregnant women can take it and not suffer any consequences. The OCV protects against cholera by stimulating an intestinal immune response. Like I said, it is to strengthen the body and to strengthen your immunity, but not to inhibit cholera from growing. It's just to try to prevent it. And well, yeah, this has been everything for this video. I hope it was interesting enough and entertaining. Here are the slides, the websites and pages I used to be able to complete